Hello and welcome to my diary. I'm Tatami. Here we talk about whatever I want to, and today we're going to be talking about Hamilton. We're going to be talking about how basically this is about him getting kind of the Santa Claus treatment and trying to kind of go at this from that point of view. Y'all know that I do like musicals. The Wiz is top 2 of my favorite movies of all time, tied for first place. So yeah, I like musicals. I'm not going to be one of those people who's like hating on musicals. I don't get pissy about stuff. I don't get pissy when it's classical Broadway, but I do absolutely love and encourage people bringing in. I love it when there's like rock musicals. I love it when there's hip operas, okay, hip hop musicals. I enjoy all that type of stuff. I have in the past. I wish there was more of it. But you know, it is what it is. You got to kind of enjoy and uplift the ones that come by your way when you see them if they're good. So I really wanted to see this one. Let me just say, I said the Santa Claus treatment. They gave Hamilton the full Santa Claus treatment. By that, I mean that for me, the Santa Claus treatment goes slightly beyond suspension of disbelief. So suspension of disbelief, right, is when in the middle of the movie, all of a sudden your brain has to do that little click thing where you're like, that's how you do things in this world. All right, fine. Those are the rules. What are the rules? Those are the rules of this whole thing, right? But with the Santa Claus treatment, it's beyond that. Because, like, Santa Claus, we all know who that is, right? We've all seen a picture of Saint Nick, the old man from back in the day. They have little paintings of him, a skinny old white man. We know that Saint Nick was like a person. There was a person out there who walked around and did something vaguely similar. This man was not all good. He was not all bad. He was a human being with a life, right? Who knows what else went on in the intricacies of it. He, ate and pooped like the rest of us. Yet and still, we all will flock to see the Santa Claus, Klaus, Arthur Christmas, Elf Bowling. The list goes on and on and on. We will watch weird shit build up into the Santa Claus cinematic universe. And we will allow him to be given this weird treatment of being, everything about him is pretty decently good, or it's all through his point of view. It's all like this weird grander than life way of repeating his story. And we're fine with it. We're like, whatever, it's fucking Santa Claus. Who cares? Who cares if it's not really like Saint Nick? It's Santa Claus. Santa Claus is thankfully a lot less harmful of a character to have done this to than Hamilton himself. I remember the first time I read Hamilton's like story of his life when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh wow, like a lot of people were let down in this, right? Like his wife gets cheated on, his rival is like one step behind him, but not really for any super good reason. Like they are kind of equal, so it's kind of makes sense. And then like Hamilton, he's kind of into himself, and he kind of just does things that are just like, eh. So the first time I read Hamilton's story, that was the impression I got away with. This kind of just, it's telling his story, but kind of just making it not all seem that bad. Like he's a cheater. It's not all that bad. He's not all that bad. So that's the storyline, is that it basically like, y'all, there's not a slave in sight. Black folks playing the founding fathers, all of this stuff that's part of why it's like your brain is like, click. Okay, so that's Lafayette. Oh, right. So that's Hamilton, and that's Burr, and that's George Washington. Okay. That's like how your brain is just going through it, because you've seen the pictures of the founding fathers. They are the most bland Mayo individuals of all time. The most bland, like you've seen a portrait of Hamilton. This man had no flavor. You've seen George Washington, wooden teeth rotten out of his mouth. President of the United States. That man had no flavor. So the idea of like, gotta get my right hand man back. Come on, man. Like he had none of that. But this is the Santa Claus treatment, right? Where people are given these amazing, and you want to love them, and that they're modernized and brought into all this newfangled, and they add to the lore of the American Revolution cinematic universe. That's kind of what's going on here. So I did appreciate not having to see slaves everywhere. Actually, I actually was like, all right, we're just going to skip over that part of history. Fine. Let's just focus on the founding fathers and the shit they got into together. That is fine with me. My main thoughts about this musical actually came from what he was trying to do here. All right. Because in my brain, I'm like, this reminded me a lot of The Prince of Egypt in the sense of like, right, the Prince of Egypt has like great characters, great songs, great, like, lyrically great songs, great representation. The animation is just gorgeous. But at the end of the day, the actual story that you're listening to is a vengeful ass god killing little kids and harassing people, many of whom had nothing to do with shit, right? So it's like, the story itself kind of sucks. But the rest of it is pretty decent. So that's kind of what we have here with the Hambleton situation, is it's like the founding fathers kind of sucked. They really sucked. There's just a lot of, they're vengeful, pretty cruel, petty people, egotistical, thought of themselves a lot. So the story itself, the subject matter itself is kind of the issue when you're watching Hambleton, is it's like, you know these people pretty much suck. They did terrible things. Like you'll run into an old American man who will be like, back in the day, our forefathers could shake a hand and sell a house. And then after they sold that house, they go home and rape somebody. You know what I'm saying? So they were not good people. They held themselves on little pedestals and honored their little pedestals to each other when it suited them. But that's the kind of core of the issue with Hambleton, really. But then it's like, when you expand it out, I do feel that there are a lot of benefits that come from this. For example, the way Lin-Manuel wrote this musical kind of makes it so it's really difficult for a person of color to not be the leads of this musical. And I say this as somebody who has clicked on other videos of people like who recreated the musical, at school or as a local theater or whatever. And it's a really it's a hard musical to nail if you don't have rhythm, if you don't have speed, if you don't have like a sense of any of that, of hip hop and being able to deliver. The original cast has so much talent. It's just ridiculous. And I say that kind of excluding Lin-Manuel. He has so much talent in the sense that he wrote this musical. He has had so much flowing out of him, the artistic energy, the creativity, as an American, as a Puerto Rican, as all these things. I think he really did flow into it and create a real masterpiece. I do think that he held it back slightly, in the sense that he is a decent actor, but everyone else that he hired for all the other roles was like light years ahead of him. They were like singing, dancing, rapping, accents, keeping on top of stuff, interesting. Every move they made felt like a real character. It was amazing. And a few times it just felt like Lin-Manuel was almost the person out of place. And I almost feel like that's because everyone else was at this like level of professional Broadway. You know what I'm saying? Like the three sisters, Angelica and Eliza especially, like y'all, their voices were just like, their acting, their facial expressions. The gentleman who played both Lafayette and Jefferson, honey, like these people are just so good. You would buy this soundtrack to just play. Like this is one of those few modern moments where this is a soundtrack that you would just want to listen to, because the people that are hired are just so good. So I do think that Lin-Manuel actually might have missed an opportunity, or kind of, I don't want to say did himself dirty, but like he really could have hired someone else to play Hambleton, in my honest opinion. I'm not trying to say he did terrible. It's just like the level of production of everybody else is just like 10. And I would put at like a 7. And most of the reproductions that I've seen out there of the musical, I would put at like a 4 or a 5. They're really hard to listen to. It's terrible. But the good news is that because he made this music that people of color will kind of naturally nail, or if a white person does, they have to really nail it and really understand it. I think that he has opened up opportunities for people of color in Broadway. Like, it's a weird thing to say, especially with like an American Revolution themed musical. It's like, yeah, actually, but it is. He just made a musical that focused on like hip hop, R&B, kind of jazzy themes along with the Broadway and stuff. And there's obvious characters that, you know, can be played by white people easily. But I mean, yeah, like he made a situation in which it's kind of going to be almost impossible to have a major Broadway cast of this and ignore people who are nailing this type of singing choreography, the accents, etc. I think it was really well done. I can't imagine like other people having done this. I'm just sorry. I just really liked how these people, the people of color, were able to nail these roles. And really, it's a hard thing to get roles in Broadway is what I'm saying. It's really hard. People of color are consistently kept out of roles and not chosen for, and like, I understand certain musicals, like say Hairspray, race matters. A lot of the times it doesn't, and sometimes it can be a real hindrance for people of color to find their way into these musicals, especially a lot of musicals that were kind of written especially for white people and tend to star white people, and in these communities it's just harder for people of color to get in. So it really made me happy to see people of color were the leads of this musical, were the ones getting paid. I thought that was really excellent. I did look into Lin-Manuel a little more because he was such a white passing Puerto Rican. I did want to look at him more. I did notice, you know, like there's some like, and also because he decided to make himself the lead of the musical he wrote, even though I was like, I don't know. It's like when you're not the best at something, when you're not the best dancer and everyone around you is like 3-4 levels pro ahead of you, you're not the best gamer, you're playing games with people and you're the one who's like, I don't know, silver, but everyone around you is platinum. Like it just like, you know, you're kind of the weak link. So I'm curious why he didn't realize he was the weak link. At any rate, I was looking into him and I saw that he has, you know, tried to do things like raise money for Puerto Rico. I thought that was noble. However, I was a little like confused when I looked into that because he said something like he was going to do like an opening night in Puerto Rico and donate that money to the people of Puerto Rico so that they could recover from like the hurricane they had a few years ago that our government totally abandoned them for, even though it's our job as as America, you know, whatever, we're just trash. So he said he was going to give them the money, but in my mind, I'm kind of confused about that just because it's like, wouldn't you make more money doing an opening night in New York and then donating all that money from New Yorkers to Puerto Rico instead of taking it to Puerto Rico and asking Puerto Ricans to pay for it, or for rich people to fly to Puerto Rico to see it? What are the odds that they'd all do that? You know what I'm saying? What are the odds that all the people who showed up were not from Puerto Rico and were paying into this? And so why would Puerto Ricans have to pay into this? You know, there was just like my brain, like I want to be excited that he was donating to Puerto Rico. And I think that's a good thing. He was thinking of Puerto Rico and thinking of his people and thinking of America's connection to it and the other colonies we clearly still have. You know what I mean? He kind of brought that full circle in a sense. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know that was the best. Like, are you just showing off to Puerto Ricans, or are you really trying to help Puerto Ricans? Because I feel like it would be more effective to have a free showing for people in Puerto Rico and have a showing in New York or San Francisco or LA or Miami or something where they pool money from Americans, especially wealthy Americans, and send it to the Puerto Ricans. Why would the Puerto Ricans need to pay themselves to pay back themselves? I don't know. You see what I'm saying? All right, let's take this shot real quick. I've been talking a lot and I forgot to take it. All right. So to conclude, I actually did really like it though. Like I said, the music was great. It really makes you think. It's one of those musicals, if you're the type of person, I'll move this dirty ass water, sorry. If you're the type of person who likes to like make up words to songs as you run around your house, like my husband and I do that with like all types of songs. We always are remixing the lyrics to songs and just singing them, rapping them. We remix raps all the time. It's just like a fun way to like wordplay all that stuff. And then like, it's funny to tease other people by singing shit at them. I don't know why I'm explaining this. I don't think it makes much sense when I'm explaining it now, but it's just something we do. So yeah, ever since we've been watching this first off, we watched it like 3 times because we could not stop laughing at shit. We could not stop like mocking shit, enjoying shit. You know, it was all the emotions. It was all over the place. Some things we hated, some things we loved, but we were still watching and we were still enjoying the music. So yeah, I think, you know, from now on we will probably be running around our house doing shit like it must be nice. You know what I mean? We've been running our house being just silly, foolish. We've been laughing about stuff, discussing stuff. For example, his cheating on his wife. We are like like, how do you say no to this, sir? You got the whole crew around you telling you, NO says no, say no to this, say no to this. So anyways, we already knew the story of Hambleton. Like, we've already discussed his cheating on his wife before in our lives. Like, why? Like, why, sir? Why? But the musical makes you even more like, why? Just don't cheat. With a married woman, at least. She said clearly she was still married. Oh my goodness. And poor Eliza. At any rate, y'all, he's a trash human being. He was trash. I'm sure Saint Nick was probably trash too. However, when you're given the Santa Claus treatment, it makes your trash parts seem reasonable. It makes your good parts seem even greater, and it makes like everybody just is willing to sit in the fantasy of it, to just wallow in the fantasy of it. And so that's really, I think, what Hambleton ultimately is. And I think a lot of musicals are like that, right? Like I mentioned Hairspray earlier, and Hairspray, like, when it comes to race relations, is trash. And actually, I'm gonna be honest, it's even pretty trash when it comes to like fat phobia relations. Like, it's still pretty trash. It doesn't really solve anything. Nobody really gets in trouble. Nobody really has anybody truly angry at them for their overt racism. It just is what it is, and people are growing slightly inches every day. And that's like the musical. And you're just supposed to kind of like wallow in the good and just enjoy it for what it is. Enjoy it for Good Morning Baltimore and I Can Hear the Bells. If you're watching the old one, enjoy it for the Roach, doing the Roach. If you enjoy it for the other ones, all Zac Efron and all them. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta enjoy it for what it is, even though it's like it's saying it's doing this thing. But is it really? West Side Story, same thing. It said it was talking about race relations and like the issues between this and that, Romeo and Juliet type of this and that. But did it though, really? Did it really teach us any real lessons about nothing? Or did it just like kind of just do that general storyline, but the music is just so good and the dancing is fun and the actors are just phenomenal and you just kind of got to appreciate it for that whole weird package that it is, even though there are so many parts that make you uncomfortable, but there's so many parts that just make you feel so good. So yes, like I'm saying, just like the Prince of Egypt, just like the West Side Story and Hairspray and all of them, you know, there's a time and a place for them. And I think I can appreciate them for what they are. You know, usually I seem so black and white on this channel about stuff because I'm very passionate about morals and everything. But with art, I do try and give leeway and try and see that gray space. And with humanity, I try and see that gray space because I understand, right? All of us, we're not all perfect, right? Beyonce looks perfect, but she ain't perfect. We all have issues. We all have things that we're not proud of that we've done in our past or ways we've thought, and we're trying to change it. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, when it comes to humanity, I do try and see things in the gray scale. So Hambleton, the individual, if I ever ran into his ghost, I talk a lot of shit. But as for Hambleton, the musical, I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people in the world will enjoy it. And I think as long as we can all be honest that it is pure fiction, it's very base level of it is fact. The majority of the embellishment is just fiction. And as long as we're able to have those conversations with our kids, I think that it's going to be a fine musical. And I think that it's a fine thing for it to be sharing with generations, to be sharing with each other. Like, is it in my top 10 of 10? I don't think it's in my top 10. It may grow on me as time goes on. I'm not sure. But as of right now, just the viewing of it, I enjoy it a lot. I know I'm going to be rewatching it a lot in the years to come. But I'm not going to say that it's like my favorite thing ever. I'm not going to say that at all. But I want to say congrats to all the actors and actresses in this musical. Just your voices, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Like, just beautiful delivery. Every person just nailed their character. Every moment was just pure and perfect. I'm pretty sure the girl who played Angelica was Princess Tiana. I think that's her voice. I'm going to look that up. Don't quote me. Don't listen to me. I'm just talking out loud now because I'm running out of, I'm running to the end of this. I wanted to put that out there that the people did amazing. Just well done. And I hope that this can be the catalyst to more and much better musicals that feature hip hop, R&B, and Black people. Even that focus on Black people even could be a great one, so that Black people aren't telling white people's stories. We can tell our stories, so our stories aren't just like fighting dysfunction, slavery, what have you. It can just be like a normal, fun musical that happens to feature Black people, hip hop, all those fun things. So I think it was a step in the right direction. And these steps are not always going to be perfect. The shoe don't always fit. Not so let me get into like metaphors and shit as an American. Holy shit, we talk so stupid sometimes. But anyways, my point is I enjoyed it. I enjoy it for what it is. I enjoy it for what it isn't. I didn't like parts, but overall, I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to hand it to you. I'll hand it to you, Lin-Manuel, and not just because of Hambleton, but because I've seen his work in so many other things, and I think overall, he's going in the right direction. He's wavering a bit this way and that, but overall, I think he's heading in the right direction. So for now, I'm gonna give Lin a pass. Should have hired somebody else to be Hambleton, but I give you this pass. But at any rate, what do you think? Somebody tell me else what you think. I would love to hear if anyone else who has been following along with my diary has seen this musical and what you thought of it. I happen to my brother-in-law has Disney Plus, so he let me watch it on his. He's so kind in that way. So at any rate, may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I will see you next time.